paying off debt while building wealth. So I apologize for those individuals that heard me introduce Vicki and I 3 or 4 times already. But my name is Craig Siminski. My job title is Certified Financial Planner. And what I do is goal-focused investment planning. So that's the endowment of retirement income my clients don't outlive, the best education their kids and grandkids can qualify for, and significant legacies to the ones you love and must leave behind in the world. So I've been doing this 20 years. My assistant Vicki, she's been doing this 21. So again, you heard me say this, but if you have questions, we've seen a lot before, and we're very particular. So, you know, we don't try to gloss over anything, so we may have an answer for you. If you have questions, please chime in. And I'd rather have you just stop and ask a question and then forget about it. So this is kind of basic. I'm going to go through this. ComPsych would like to make sure that the presenters, myself, follow the topics in the outline. And how I got involved, I guess, is I'm the ethics chairperson, or I was the ethics chairperson for the Financial Planning Association of Northeast Wisconsin. And ComPsych had reached out to me and asked if I do the presentation. And I'm guessing the city of Appleton probably reached out to ComPsych, right? And then they picked the presentation. So I don't want to get anybody angry, so we're going to go through this. And if you have questions, just let me know. So the overall description, although most people think estate planning is, oh no, wrong one. So I got that going for me. In difficult times, many people are struggling just to keep up with monthly bills, and let alone make progress on debt repayment. What suffers most is contributing to savings and investing goals. This session will focus on developing financial plans and strategies to address the dual goals of having a plan for paying off debt while also contributing to building wealth. You don't want to do just one. And so this session will cover the basics of each area and describe practical techniques that can help you to formulate your own plans to manage your personal finances and a sensible debt repayment plan without sacrificing other goals. So that's, in a nutshell, what we're doing. So objectives: understand debt, understand wealth, the ability to create, understand basic financial documents. We'll go over budgets, expense sheets, understand financial goals, understand the trade-offs of paying down debt and investing. We'll talk about levering. You know, if you've got something that an interest rate on a credit card that's 25%, I doubt you're going to be able to get a 25% return in Procter & Gamble. I mean, it makes more sense to pay off that higher interest rate. So what is debt? It's an amount loaned from one party to another that carries an obligation to repay the loan. What do you think they also tack on to the loan? Interest, right? So they don't just loan you money because you're a good person. Say, here's 10 grand, I'll expect 10 grand back. You know, they're going to loan that money to you plus interest, obviously. So why have debt? Typically, one has debt because they cannot pay for something that is in its entirety at the time of a purchase, or because the terms of borrowing are very attractive. Most young couples or middle-aged couples, whatever, aren't going to be able to plop down $170,000 for a home. They're going to buy that home. They might do it over 15 years. They might do it over 30. They're going to pay a lot more over those 30 years than $175,000. But at least that monthly payment is doable to allow them to have that. The kinds of debt that are out there: secured, real estate, motor vehicles; unsecured, revolving credit, credit cards, personal loans. Secured means there's property securing the debt. That makes sense, right? Student loans, we'll get into that. That was a big sticking point yesterday when we talk about forgiveness of loans. There's programs out there, but sometimes they don't work. Medical debt. Is debt good or bad? Good debt. Mortgages and student loans. Again, this is just overall generalizations. So mortgage debt probably isn't good if you're paying, I don't think this day and age you would 20% on it, but I mean, you don't want to necessarily take out a home equity line of credit, pay the interest only on that, and suddenly 5 years later it balloons when interest rates, instead of being 5%, might be 10. So even though it's written on there as good debt, You just need to know how the debt works and the terms of the debt. Bad debt, credit cards and payday loans. I'm sure most of you have heard payday loans. I mean, those things are ridiculous. But I never want to judge. Sometimes people get painted in a corner and they have to do things for their family. I was born and raised in Two Rivers, and there was a lot of good paying jobs there. Probably about 20 years ago, Paragon was a company that closed its doors. Then you had Miro, then you had Hamilton's. Now you have the nuclear plant. There's not that many people there, and to be 55 years old or 59 years old and then have that carpet yanked out underneath you, you may have to get a loan just to keep the bills paid. So good debt, bad debt. What is personal wealth? A measure of the value of all assets less debt. What adds to wealth? Assets. So you told them, Vicki, right? Everybody's got this. It's the pink one. What adds to wealth? Assets, physical assets, financial assets. Physical assets, the home, the cottage up north, the boat. Earnings and income can add to wealth. Debt can add to wealth. So let's say you buy a house, it's worth $200,000. To get that house, you put down some money, it appreciated a little bit in value, but you got a $180,000 loan. So the difference, I'm just trying to figure out how they figure debt can add to wealth, but if you lever it correctly, it's possible. Lou? Sorry. No, that's okay. How does wealth relate to income? Well, you have relative wealth. The lower your income, potentially lower expenses. Go ahead. How can it be an asset? Because it's worth money. Sure. Yeah, but you don't have to live in a $500,000 house. So basically how they compute that is when you're looking for applying for financial aid or anything, they don't look at financial aid to your primary residence. But normally when you calculate a balance sheet, if you want to get a loan, go to the bank, they're going to look at, okay, how much is the house worth and how much do you owe on it? Because how is it an asset is you can take out a home equity line of credit based on the value of that home. So if you have a $100,000 home and there's $10,000 of debt on it, it's an asset because you can tap into the equity in that house. Does that make sense or not really? That's kind of how they're looking at it as an asset. Now, when we look at that, we exclude primary residence when we're looking at suitability. So I can see your point too. So when I'm looking to see if somebody wants to open up a Roth IRA, we have to do suitability. We exclude their primary residence and the debt on it. But that's a good question. I've never had that ever asked. So way to pay attention. I wish I had a prize for you. So if you want to go to the next slide. Using a personal balance sheet. Positive net worth is what we're looking for. So it just allows you to take stock of current financial status and track progress towards goals over time. Banks look at this to see if you're credit worthy. We'll talk about that. So it's just a good idea instead of just taking a stab in the dark, knowing where are we at today. So the process, calculate assets. What are liquid assets, for example, is checking and savings account. Medium-term assets, bonds, stocks, real estate, retirement accounts. Determine your liabilities. Student loans, credit cards, mortgages, car loans. So assets minus liabilities equals net worth. All right? Vicki loves this when I talk about this. So this is my sister. Did I say that already? Her name's Vic. Okay. Assets minus liabilities equals net worth. If you look on there, Equity Design Group is the name of our firm. I've always been bugged by that. What do you think of do you think of an investment guy? When you think of Equity Design Group, do you think I do investments or what do you think I do? Most people think, oh, you got to be related to the real estate market or something or housing. But when we thought of this, and it was North Star Financial, and then in 1999 or 2000, it was Equity Design Group. And assets minus liabilities equals net worth or owner's equity. So they're thinking the process, equity, if I build wealth, I'm building equity. So that's what the goal is try to build wealth. So I just thought I'd throw that in as a side note. Balance sheet part one. So if you look at this, This is a balance sheet, a hypothetical balance sheet for a person in their late 20s, okay? So you've got assets, the house, the car, savings and checking, IRAs, employer plans, brokerage accounts. This is just non-retirement investments. Total assets, $163,000. I think they're doing pretty good for the late 20s. Liabilities, you got the mortgage, home equity loan, auto loans, student loans, credit cards. The one thing I'd point out, you're probably, if you've got a house you can see in the left column, valued at $120,000, mortgage of $110,000, I don't see how you're going to get a home equity loan for $10,000. It's probably not going to happen, but that's just the way they got it figured out. So total assets, you can see assets are less than total liabilities. So the net worth is $11,150. So you're behind the ball a little bit, but they don't have on here personal assets. Personal assets, if you could shake out your home, your cottage, your boat, your four-wheelers, snowmobiles, those got to be worth something. They're not including it on here. Next slide. There you go. Thank you. Balance sheet, 65-year-old, newly retired. House is a little bit more. Car, savings, IRAs, employer plans, brokerage accounts, total assets almost $1 million. Liabilities, still got a $10,000 mortgage. $10,000 mortgage. Home auto loan, you might have that. Credit cards, total liabilities, you can see not much. Net worth almost $970,000. The big thing that I like to point out on this is, I don't know in the group if anybody's near retirement, but once you get near retirement, most people, I shouldn't say most people, statistically speaking, if you have a husband and wife coming to my office 65 years old, we have to create a spending plan for them, right? I look at what are your fixed expenses. In retirement, if you're near retirement or are retired, there is really not a lot of fixed expenses. If you have a mortgage still or a car payment, that's a fixed expense. Otherwise, you only have rising expenses. You will see on the next sheet or coming up in the slide, everything you spend money on in retirement costs more every year. If bread costs more for me to buy when I'm 30, don't you think it's going to cost more for me to buy when I'm 70? Yeah. So you have rising expenses in retirement. Please make sure when you create your spending plan that your income rises in retirement so you don't run out of money. So you're not on 2020 saying, well, I had this when I retired, now I can't afford to pay my apartment. So net worth over time, it goes up typically. That's what that slide's saying. Any questions on the slide? All right. Using a personal cash flow statement. All right, process. Tools that track your cash inflows and outflows. Now, you can go on the internet and do this on your smartphones probably. I like having, this is the expense sheet that I was talking about. I like just doing it because I can look at it frequently. I can tweak it. I can write on it. Process is calculate cash flows, cash inflows. What's coming in? Obviously, your salary, wages, investment income, Social Security, if you're at that age. Calculate outflows. Mortgage payments, car payments, food and utilities, those are your rising expenses and any other expenses that you have. If you have more inflows than outflows, the higher savings you're going to have. That's going to be the money that you can use to chip away debt. There's nothing wrong, I guess, with having debt as long as you have it under control. I wish I remember what we said on the way here. Remember you said, say that. Yeah. I have no idea what it was. But it'll come to me, I hope. So, when you have debt, the question becomes, here's what we have discretionary at the end of the month. What are we going to do with it? Do we stick it into the deferred comp plan? You're probably going to try to balance your HSA with your deferred comp with the Wisconsin retirement system. But there's nothing wrong with looking at, okay, I have this credit card debt, or we've got these student loans. We had a young lady in here yesterday that had student loans. Do we pay off the student loan, or do we invest for retirement? You got to look at what is the rate of interest on there. And you have to look at it in a tax equivalent yield. So because you can write certain student loan debt off on your income taxes, what is that worth? So just to keep my math simple, let's say the loan's at 10%. Or you can write off your mortgage interest on your income taxes. So if you got a 10% rate on the student loan and you're in the 22% tax bracket for Fed, 6 for state, I'm just going to lower it and say call it 25%. And on a side note, I always have people say, Craig, why don't you take me to lunch? You know, and sometimes I do. And because I can write it off as a business expense. Well, lunch is on Craig. He can write that off on his income taxes. I don't pay my taxes at 100%. So just because I can write it off my income tax is great. That doesn't mean that's only, in this example, 25% of the bill that the IRS is covering. I'm still paying for 75% of your meal. You know, so on the student loan interest, if it's at 10, you're in the 25% tax bracket between federal and state. The net interest rate is 7.5%. Can you get more than 7.5% on your investments? I don't know. But when you look at mortgage, if you're paying a 4% mortgage and you're writing that off on your income taxes, 25% of 4 is 1. Can you get more than 4 minus 1 is 3%? Can you get more than 3% on a mutual fund somewhere? You know, again, past performance is no guarantee of future returns, but I think over the long run, yeah. So you may not want to spend down, focus every penny that you have extra every month, your discretionary income, by paying off your mortgage. Maybe invest it, obviously, in the retirement plan, the deferred comp. Do an IRA, do a spousal IRA. Look at doing a Roth. There's questions. If you have questions, you know, reach out to your advisor. So you've got more inflows. There's more opportunity to do things with discretionary income. More outflows, that's overspending. You're probably taking on more debt, and you probably can't afford that credit card debt. And I think most of you realize that. Cash flow statement. Like I said, I've got one. Email me if you want this. Because we've got everything on there. I mean, we got every expense you can probably generalize. Wages, investment income, total cash outflows of $55,000. All right, $55,141. Inflows. Cash outflows, you got the mortgage, car payment, and again, this looks like obviously it's annualized. Other debt, groceries, dining out, utilities, clothes, entertainment, miscellaneous. Total outflows, $41,600. Total cash flow, positive $13,541. So if this was what I was looking at in my office, I'd say you could probably, you know, just keep a little barrier in there or a little buffer, $1,000 a month. What do we do with that $1,000? Maybe we put some in the deferred comp. Maybe we pay off some student loans. I wouldn't necessarily prepay the mortgage if you're at a really low rate. Maybe invest that in a side fund. You can have your house paid off in 15 years, even if you have a 30-year mortgage. Don't make the bank's house bigger than your own. After 15 years, you might have that side fund that's worth way more than the mortgages. Then you might be able to use that to pay down your house or pay off the house and get a new one. When you go to sell a house, nobody knows whether the bank owns your house or whether it's free and clear. The market's not going to determine that. So just be smart with your money. Okay, let's see what we got next. That was for a younger, late 20s. This one's for 65, newly retired. The big thing to look at is income. So when you look at income over here, Social Security is $20,000, pensions $10,000, investment income. So when you retire, you're still going to have to maintain your dignity and independence in retirement. You're going to have to start pulling from that nest egg, those retirement savings accounts, your 401ks, your 457Bs. That's going to have to be a source probably of a third to a half, depending on your lifestyle, of the income that you're going to have to generate. So what they say statistically is about 4% is a safe withdrawal rate of a retirement nest egg. And I'm generalizing, but just to get this point across, you can see this differs quite a bit from the person in the 20s. Total cash outflows, total cash flow. That's on an annual basis. So the typical retiree isn't going to have an extra $1,000 a month to figure out what debt they want to pay off, what they want to invest in. Hopefully they don't have a big mortgage payment at that point. Does that make sense? Okay. What's this, another budget sheet? Excellent. Okay, so talking more about budgeting, net receipts. So a budget sheet you can see over here, and I read this wrong for the last class on down here, but variance. When you do a budget, does anybody do budgeting? So most of the time, so you do. You look at, here's the budget. You can see that column right there, right? What do we actually spend money on? So then they call it, is it a positive or negative variance? So if you're ahead, that means we had take-home pay actually of $1,675. That's $175 more than we thought. So that's a total positive cash receipts of $175. You were actually under budget. You know what I mean? In that case, meaning you had more income than you thought. Now, down here, you don't want to go over budget on the expenditures. So all the budgeted amount, then you have the actual cost. So you're looking at about negative, what is that? Almost 190. So it's important when you create a budget to at least look at it. It makes you feel great that you did it. Okay, you know, husband and wife have the conversation at night. This is great. We made our budget. Now we feel great about that. Actually, stick to it. So we know that we have an extra $1,000 a month to spend. That might be high. We know we have an extra $200 a month. What do we want to do with this? Get on the same page, because guess what? Maybe the husband says, I can get a new gun. Hunting's coming up. Or the wife says, man, I've been looking at these couple pairs of shoes, and I'm going to get them both. Again, I'm not trying to be stereotypical, but I mean, just make sure you created that budget. Now, stick to it. Don't have one person blow it. Does that make sense? Goals and emergencies. A goal should be in writing and specific. So a goal should be in writing and specific, measurable, actionable, and timed. What do we see on there? It's good to write down goals. It's good to talk about them, but you want to be specific. What is the goal? We want to go on vacation. Where? When? What's the time horizon? That's my big thing when we work with clients, is figuring out, what is the time horizon? Is this a short-term goal? Okay, I know I'm going to need this money in 2 years. Our daughter's going to be going to school, and we like to help her with a college, with her college education, or tech school, or whatever, post-secondary education. We'd like to go on vacation here. We know we're going to sell our house, and we want to buy this condo because we're going to be retiring in this community or in this state. Make sure these goals are at least timed out. Know the time horizon for it. Emergencies. In case something comes up, most people have auto insurance, and there's a deductible associated with that. You get in a car accident, do you have enough in emergency savings to pay for that deductible? If you don't, how are you going to get by? If the furnace goes out, what are you going to do? You're going to borrow? Hopefully you have an emergency fund or cash, or you're going to do without. So I don't know if this one talks about it. Yeah, I think it does. Yep, so we'll talk about that in the next slide. There you go. Savings and investing. What is savings? Savings is taking part of one's income and not spending it, okay? So you have a savings account. Most earn interest. It's low risk, low liquidity. So your savings account isn't going to be as volatile as the stock market, okay? Market was down 600 points yesterday. A lot of that was tech. What do you think is going to be more volatile, Netflix or your CD money? Take a guess. Netflix, absolutely. So that kind of leads into savings is more on the emergency end. That is low duration, meaning you're not going to have a long time horizon, low risk. Investing is putting money into higher risk, higher expected return, and longer term vehicles. Return is generally not interest but capital gains and dividends. So what that means is if you buy Apple or Microsoft, you buy at a certain price point. I wish I knew what Microsoft's trading at. Let's say Procter & Gamble's at $85 a share. I don't know if it's exactly that. Eventually, that share price is going to appreciate. It might trade for $100 a share. That's the principal, increase in principal or capital gain potential that you have. They also pay out dividends. So let's say Procter & Gamble's share price never goes up again. You bought it at $85 a share. The yield, the dividend yield on that might be 3.75%. So even though the price never moves from 85, you're still going to get income in the form of a dividend at 3.75%. Now, a lot of these companies, Procter & Gamble included, regularly raise their dividends. So even though that share price might never increase from $85 a share, if they raise their dividend by 4%, guess what happened? Your income went up by 4. So capital gains, dividends, Q plans. Anybody ever hear something like that? It stands for qualified plans. It just means your 401k, your 403b, your 457b. So that's qualified plans. IRAs, individual retirement accounts, they're retirement monies, but they don't fall under the 1974 ERISA Act to be a qualified plan. Brokerage accounts. These typically are your non-retirement investments. So you have a brokerage account, or you might have an account directly held at a mutual fund family, such as Fidelity or Vanguard or American funds. Those are non-qualified, just mean non-retirement. Real property, real estate. Small businesses. You know, I've got clients that have a small business. They may hire employees to help them accomplish the goals of the business. To attract and retain those employees, typically they'll offer a retirement plan. They may have a 401k. Because you guys are, you know, the city of Appleton, you're a municipality. Instead of having a 401k, you've got a 403b. It's just a different tax code. If you work for a nonprofit, let's say a hospital or a school teacher, you might have a 403b. Did I just say that? Oh, okay. So those are qualified plans. Now the small business owner is probably going to stick as much as they can back into the business. So once they retire, they may have $25,000 in their 401k, but they've got a business that they're going to sell worth $500,000. So there's ways to invest. Retirement plan contributions. Let me see the time here. So this goes to 10. All right. Learn about your employer's retirement plan. Allison, you probably know about it, right? Good. So what are the limits? What can you put in there? Is there an employer match? Typically, there's not a match in a 457. You guys probably don't have a match, right? I don't think I've seen one. Was the city of Milwaukee, that gentleman, they didn't have a match in there, did they? No. Okay. Vesting. Vesting schedules. The unique part about a 457B is because it is a municipality. If you withdraw money before you're 59 and a half, you still pay income taxes on it. I don't think they have a Roth component, do they, for the 457B? They do have a Roth option. Wow, that's huge. That's good. Roth is after-tax contributions. Does everybody know the difference between a Roth or a pre-tax account? The Roth, if for example, in the 457B, if you have that option, let's say you want to put 6% into it. 3% you want pre-tax, meaning if you make $50,000 a year, 3% of $50,000 is $1,500. Your W-2 at the end of the year is going to say $48,500. If you have 2% into the 3% into the Roth component, $1,500 of that is going to the investment, but that's not a deduction on your W-2 or income taxes. So it's not going in as a pre-tax contribution, it's after tax. Let me just take a quick drink of water here. So when you look at that $1,500 is like spending money on groceries or doing whatever. You can't deduct that from your income taxes. Both of them grow tax deferred, so there's no taxation on the gain. When you take the money out of the Roth, if you're over 59 and a half and you've had the account open for 5 years, assuming you've been investing this, the earnings aren't taxable. So why is that important? Social Security, has anybody listened to the Social Security session? Tim Gerke. That guy's amazing. Social Security isn't taxed 100% when you pull it out. It can be taxed at 0, 50%, or 85. So if you need $20,000 to live on in retirement above and beyond your pension income, your Social Security income, you're going to be pulling money from pre-tax contributions and Roth contributions. The Roth earnings aren't taxable. The money that went into there was after tax, so it's basis. So if you need 20 grand and you pull it out of that Roth component, 0% is subject for Social Security. It makes sense to have different buckets of money to pull from in retirement. I would, unless you're in a really high tax bracket, probably split it between the Roth and the pre-tax, or maybe even do 2/3 Roth. But that's up to everybody. You know, talk to Allison, talk to Voya will know. They're the ones that do it, right? So that's important. Why would I say, about the employee retirement plan. Employer matching, vesting. Pay yourself first, give until it hurts. That's up to you. Consider contributing to an individual retirement account. We talked about you could do spousal IRAs. Let's say you have a spouse that's at home and not working. Because you have earned income, if you've got, let's just say you only have $5,000 of earned income. The employee can do $2,500 in an IRA, and the spouse could do $2,500. If you got $30,000 of earned income, only one person working, the max Roth contribution or IRA for 2018 is $5,500. If you're over 50, it's $6,500. So you could each do $5,500 in an IRA or Roth IRA, even though one spouse isn't working. That's called a spousal IRA. Has anybody heard that before? So just keep that in mind. Okay, next. Paying down debt is equal to investing or saving. So how do they figure this out? Why are they saying that? What can you do with money besides spend it? You can save it, low risk and return, but absolutely it's necessary. Everybody I sit down with, I want to have them have a savings account, an emergency reserve fund, and save on a monthly basis if you can in an actual savings account.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
So how much would you recommend that we put in an emergency fund?
So is that part of this? No. That's the next one. 3 to 6 months. So if you've got, it doesn't matter what your income is. That's if you go back to your budget sheet, outflows. If you got outflows, expenses, whether it's medical bills, anything, actual fixed expenses. So not counting the contribution into your 401k. You've got expenses of, let's say, $30,000 a year. I would have probably at least 15 in a savings account. Would I do that the second you start working? No. You want to still take advantage. You guys got a great plan because you got the Wisconsin retirement system. So you got a defined benefit plan. So the city of Appleton's already putting in money for you. But I would still probably look at doing an IRA or participate in the deferred comp plan and then balance that. But I would try to get up to 3 months or $7,500 to $15,000. Now, if you're in a career where you're based solely on commissions, I'd probably have the whole full year in there, $30,000, because you might not make any sales or whatever industry you're in might go belly up. Now, for retirees, I would say you'd want 3 years into very low volatility or low duration investment, because the investments that you're doing, if you retire and you have a 30-year spending plan, I'm going to have a portion of that invested into dividend-paying stocks just to keep pace with inflation. If General Mills goes down, I'm not going to sell it when it's going down. I know it's going to come back up, but I want to have a 3-year pot of money that I can dip into to let General Mills go down, bottom out, and come back up. So it's different based on age, but just ballparking for most in the room, I'd have probably at least 3 months to 6 months in an emergency. Good question. Where am I? Okay, so save, invest, blend them, pay off debt. You want to have a blend of all three. And everybody's different, but I would say, we're going to talk about it in a second, all things being equal, put your money where you get the highest guaranteed return. often by paying down debt, you get the biggest bang for the buck. So if you got a credit card that has 25% interest, I'd stick the majority of the money into paying off the credit card. That makes sense, right? Order of payments, pay the highest one first. Those without tax advantages. So don't pay off the home because you get a deduction for mortgage interest. That is a tax advantage. And then those with tax advantages, so those without tax advantages, and then the ones, with the most tax advantage or lowest rates. I think this is just intuitive. Yeah.
Is it worth, say you had extra money to put down, and you have a 30-year mortgage on your house, is it worth putting more money down on the house if you don't plan to live there for the whole 30 years or have that?
It could be, but how long do you, let's say hypothetically, if you're only going to live there 5 years, why stick the money in the house at all? If you're going to sell it in 5 years, again, whoever buys it doesn't care whether the bank owns it or however much you put down or you own it outright. On the secondary market, when you sell that house, I would rather have that money in my back pocket, not locked up into the house, so in case the next property that I'm buying, I might need more to put down. At that point, credit, they might tighten credit, and you may have to put down more than 5%, or if you're doing an FHA loan, 3% or 2%. I'd rather have that in a low-risk bank account or a balanced mutual fund or something that I have that access to that money for the next property. If you're only doing it to get a lower interest rate, I would probably talk to a different mortgage lender. You don't have to, typically you'll find somebody still. You're going to probably pay over, what is it probably now, 4.5%, 5% for a 30. But you'll find a lender or a mortgage broker that will be able to get you into a plan without having to put a boatload down. I don't know, does that answer the question? We're on the summary. Good. Have realistic, achievable financial goals. Obviously, and again, I don't want to be stereotypical. If you're making $20,000 a year, don't buy a new boat that's going to have a $900 monthly payment. Just live within your means. So I think most people should realize that. Create and use a budget. All that does, it helps you get on paper what you think is true. I think this is what we're spending on a monthly basis. It's pretty close. When we figure this out, our savings should be going up by $400 a month, but they're not. What's the deal? Why isn't that working? Well, look at your spending plan. Like I said, I can email that to you. Or, you know what, maybe you can even make a photocopy if you want after this. Today I have the actual one. Where am I? Create and use a budget. Implement a debt repayment strategy. Figure out, pay the highest interest first. Build an emergency savings account. And use debt wisely. Just because you have to borrow to get something, does that make sense? Most people can't pay $150,000 to buy a home. So I think that's using debt wisely, wouldn't you think? Get a monthly payment. Now you don't need to buy a $500,000 home. Just do it so you and your spouse, your family, you don't want to have finances and money create stress. Stress is going to happen automatically, or maybe, sometimes it does. But I don't think finances should be a source of stress for husband and wife. Yeah?
Do you have a good calculator to determine how much house to afford?
Yeah, there's, was that on this one?
I've seen a lot.
On my website, I think I know there's one, but yeah, you can just Google mortgage calculator, and it'll say what that is. I don't know if they have what your income is, but they look at the debt to equity ratio, and they'll look at, I forget the exact, whatever, for your income. But that discretionary income, they'll be able to determine that on that calculator. That's a great question. Yeah. Anything else? Any other questions? This was a relatively, I'd say, straightforward presentation. Does anybody have any questions about, like I said, I mainly do investments. Any questions about the market or interest rate?
All kinds of calculators on your website, right?
Yeah.
So if you just go to
CraigSaminsky.com, it's on there. You never have to talk to me again. You can, there's a, calculators on the website. So, and I don't really usually go on there to look at that stuff. So Vicky, I mean, I don't really even know what's on there. Hopefully there's something decent. I know I've done radio shows, national radio shows for Relevant Radio, and there's some good topics. Are they still? I think they're still on the website. There's shows probably from earlier in the year, but or even end of last year. But
'Cause Craig does do some morally responsible investing, if anybody
oh yeah.
interested in that.
Yeah, so, yeah, you know, if there's certain investments that you don't want part of your portfolio, I've got clients that don't want to have exposure to pornography or abortion. So I actually do a lot of individual stock. You know, I'm a big believer in it's your money. What are your goals? What do you want to accomplish? And so when we look at individual planning, sometimes mutual funds are the answer, sometimes they're not. And so I have, you know, a diverse background in the individual stock, and that's helpful. The S&P 500, if you don't want exposure to, let's say, abortion, and it's not like companies are actually performing them, it's just, are they donating to Planned Parenthood? Everybody's different. So if you ever want some advice or have concerns about that, please let me know. So otherwise, we're going to end on a little early. What else did I forget? Anything? Well, thank you. Thank you for having us, and enjoy the rest of the day.